Have you ever been slapped by your own mother in front of 200 wedding guests? Have you ever watched your parents choose your sibling over you so blatantly that it felt like a knife twisting in your chest? I'm Sarah Mitchell, and on October 5th, 2024, at my sister Emma's wedding, my world came crashing down in the most humiliating way possible. But here's the thing, I didn't just walk away with my dignity in tatters. No, I walked away and executed the most calculated revenge that would change my family's life forever. This is my story. A story of favoritism, betrayal, and the sweet, cold justice that comes when you finally say, enough. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let me tell you how I went from being the family doormat to the woman who held all the cards. Let me take you back to the beginning. So, you understand why October 5th wasn't just a breaking point. It was 28 years in the making. I grew up in a beautiful suburban home in Connecticut with my parents, Richard and Patricia Mitchell, and my younger sister, Emma. On paper, we looked like the perfect American family. Dad was a successful insurance broker, Mom was a part-time interior designer, and we had the white picket fence, the golden retriever, the whole package. But behind closed doors, there was always a hierarchy. Emma was the sun and I was the moon. Only visible when she wasn't shining. Emma was born when I was 5. And from the moment she entered the world, everything shifted. She was the surprise baby, the miracle child my parents had after being told they couldn't have more children. She was beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed, with this infectious laugh that could light up a room. I, on the other hand, was the serious one. Brown hair, hazel eyes, bookish, quiet. I wasn't bubbly. I wasn't spontaneous. I was just Sarah. Growing up, I learned to accept my role. When Emma wanted to take dance classes, my piano lessons were quietly discontinued because we can't afford both. When Emma needed a car for her 16th birthday, I was told to keep using the family sedan I'd been sharing with Mom. When Emma struggled in college, my parents paid for private tutors and donated to ensure her acceptance into a decent school. When I graduated summa cum laude from Boston University with a degree in software engineering, the celebration dinner was at Olive Garden. When Emma graduated with a C average in communications, we went to a 5-star restaurant and Dad gave a tearful speech about how proud he was. I'm not saying this to sound bitter. Well, maybe I am a little bitter, but I'm saying it so you understand the pattern. I was the responsible one, the one who didn't need attention, the one who would always be fine. Emma was the one who needed protection, support, endless chances, and I gave up fighting it. I moved to Boston after college, got a job at a tech startup, and threw myself into my work. While Emma was bouncing between retail jobs and finding herself, I was climbing the corporate ladder. By the time I was 26, I was a senior software engineer making $180,000 a year. At 28, I'd been headhunted by a major tech company and was pulling in $250,000 annually. I bought my penthouse in downtown Boston in March 2023. It was my dream home. 2,500 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor, a gourmet kitchen, 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and a rooftop terrace that made me feel like I was on top of the world. It cost me $1.2 million, and I put down $400 from my savings. That penthouse wasn't just an apartment. It was proof that I'd made it, that I didn't need my parents' approval or their love to be successful. But here's what I didn't realize. My parents didn't see my success as something to be proud of. They saw it as a resource, an ATM machine that could solve their problems whenever Emma needed something. In February 2024, Emma called me with exciting news. She was engaged. His name was Tyler Brennan, and according to Emma, he was the one. Tyler was a personal trainer at an upscale gym, 29 years old, with the kind of charm that made people trust him instantly. I was genuinely happy for her. Despite everything, I loved my sister. She was thoughtless sometimes, yes, and spoiled, absolutely. But she wasn't malicious. She was just Emma. I drove down to Connecticut that weekend to meet Tyler and celebrate. Mom had organized a small family dinner, and when I arrived, I could already see the wedding planning binders stacked on the dining room table. Emma hadn't been engaged for 48 hours, and Mom was already in full mother-of-the-bride mode. "Sarah!" Emma squealed, throwing her arms around me. "Isn't it exciting? Can you believe I'm getting married?" "I'm so happy for you," I said. And I meant it. Tyler was fine. He had that gym bro energy, talked a lot about protein shakes and CrossFit and his entrepreneurial mindset. mentioned 3 times during dinner that he was planning to open his own gym. He was handsome. I'll give him that. But there was something in the way he looked at Emma that made me uneasy. It wasn't love, exactly. It was more like ownership. But I kept my mouth shut. Emma was glowing, and I wasn't going to be the cynical older sister who ruined her happiness. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen while Emma and Tyler were taking engagement photos in the backyard with Dad's camera. "Sarah, honey, I need to talk to you about something," Mom said, her voice taking on that syrupy sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "Sure, Mom. What's up?" "Well, Emma wants an October wedding. October 5th, specifically. It's always been her dream to have a fall wedding, you know that." I didn't know that, actually, but I nodded. "The thing is," Mom continued, wringing her hands, "weddings are so expensive now. Your father and I have been doing research, and a decent wedding costs at least $50,000. With the venue, the catering, the flowers, the dress, the photographer, it adds up so quickly. I could see where this was going." "Mom, we were hoping you could help out," she said quickly. "Not with everything. Just maybe $10,000 or $15,000. You're doing so well, and Emma's your only sister. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event." I took a deep breath. I'd known this was coming. I always knew it was coming. "Mom, I just bought my penthouse. I have a huge mortgage. I can contribute $2,000, but that's really all I can afford right now." Mom's face fell. "Sarah, don't be selfish. This is your sister's wedding. I'm not being selfish. I'm being realistic. I have my own bills, my own life. $2,000 is generous. You make so much money. What do you even spend it on? That expensive apartment?" "That expensive apartment is my home, Mom. I worked hard for it." She pressed her lips together in a thin line. "Fine, $2,000. I hope you know Emma will be disappointed." And that was that. I wrote them a check for $2,000 before I left that night, and Emma hugged me and said it was so generous. But I could see the look in Mom's eyes. It said, "You could have done more." Over the next 8 months, I watched as my parents threw themselves into planning Emma's wedding. Every time I called home, it was all wedding, all the time. The colors, dusty rose and sage green. The venue, a historic mansion in Hartford. The menu, filet mignon and Chilean sea bass. The band, a 10-piece ensemble. The dress, a custom Vera Wang that cost $8,000. I tried to be supportive. I showed up for dress shopping. I helped address invitations. I flew down for Emma's bridal shower in August and her bachelorette party in Miami in September, which cost me $2,000 in flights, hotels, and activities I couldn't afford. But with each event, I felt more and more like an ATM than a sister. At the bridal shower, Mom pulled me aside and asked if I could pitch in for the photographer because they were $3,000 short. At the bachelorette party, Emma mentioned that she wished she could afford a honeymoon in Bali, and Mom gave me a pointed look. I said no to both. And each time I felt the chill, the disappointed sighs, the passive-aggressive comments about how some people prioritize material things over family. The truth was, I was stretched thin. My mortgage was $5,500 a month. I had property taxes, HOA fees, utilities, my car payment, student loans I was aggressively paying off, and I was trying to build my savings back up after the down payment on the penthouse. I was comfortable, yes, but I wasn't rich. Not by any stretch, but my parents didn't see it that way. They saw the penthouse, the nice car, the designer purse I'd bought myself for my birthday, and they assumed I was swimming in money. In late September, Mom called me with another request. "Sarah, your father and I have been talking," she began, and I already felt my stomach drop. "About what?" "Well, Emma and Tyler need a place to live after the wedding. They've been staying with us, but it's time for them to get their own place." "Okay. So they should start looking for an apartment." "That's the thing," Mom said. "Apartments are so expensive in Connecticut right now, and Tyler's gym isn't open yet, so money is tight. We were thinking maybe they could stay in your penthouse for a few months, just until they get on their feet." I actually laughed. "Mom, are you serious?" "Why is that funny?" "You have 2 bedrooms." "Because it's my home. I live there. I'm not giving up my home so Emma and Tyler can have a free place to stay." "No one's saying permanently," Mom said, her voice hardening. "Just a few months. You could stay in the guest room." "The guest room in my own penthouse?" "Sarah, why are you being so difficult? This is your sister. She's starting a new life. Can't you help her out?" "I've already helped her out. I gave her $2,000 for the wedding. I paid for the bachelorette party. I'm not giving up my home, Mom. That's insane. There was a long silence. Then Mom said, in that icy tone I knew too well, "I'm very disappointed in you. Sarah, I thought family meant more to you than this." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, shaking with anger and hurt. This was the pattern. Ask for something unreasonable. And when I said no, make me feel like I was the bad guy, the selfish one, the one who cared more about money than family. But I pushed it aside. The wedding was in a week. I just had to get through the wedding, and then maybe things would calm down. I had no idea how wrong I was. October 5th, 2024 dawned bright and beautiful. The kind of perfect fall day you see in magazines, crisp air, brilliant blue sky, leaves turning gold and crimson. I drove down to Connecticut the night before and stayed in a hotel near the venue. I didn't want to stay at my parents' house. I needed space. The wedding was at 4 p.m. at the Rosewood Estate, a gorgeous mansion with manicured gardens and a ballroom that looked like something out of a fairy tale. I arrived at noon for photos, wearing a dusty rose bridesmaid dress that Emma had picked out. It was beautiful, I'll admit, and I felt pretty for the first time in months. Emma looked stunning in her Vera Wang gown, and for a moment, when I helped her with her veil, I forgot about all the tension. This was my little sister. She was getting married. I should be happy for her. The ceremony was lovely. Emma cried. Tyler cried. Mom sobbed through the entire thing, and Dad walked Emma down the aisle with this look of pure pride on his face. I stood at the altar as a bridesmaid and tried to ignore the little voice in my head that said, "He never looked at you like that." The reception was elegant. Round tables with rose and sage centerpieces, string lights everywhere, a band playing soft jazz as guests arrived. I found my seat at the family table right next to Mom and Dad. Everything was fine until dinner was served. We were halfway through our filet mignon when Dad leaned over to me and said, "Sarah, your mother and I need to talk to you about something important." I set down my fork. "Can it wait until after the wedding?" "No," Mom said firmly. "It can't." I looked around. Guests were eating, chatting, laughing. This didn't feel like the time or place for a serious conversation. "What is it?" I asked. Dad cleared his throat. "Emma and Tyler need a place to live." "Oh no, not this again." "We've been over this, Dad. They need to find their own apartment." "They don't have the money for an apartment right now," Mom interjected. "Tyler's still getting his business off the ground, and Emma's between jobs. So they should wait to get married until they're financially stable," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "They're already married," Dad said, gesturing to the dance floor where Emma and Tyler were laughing with guests. "And your mother and I have come up with a solution." I had a terrible feeling about where this was going. "You're going to give them your penthouse," Mom said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. I stared at her. "Excuse me?" "You're going to sign over your penthouse to Emma and Tyler," she repeated, louder this time, and I noticed a few people at nearby tables glancing over. "You can find a smaller apartment. You don't need all that space anyway." "I'm not giving them my penthouse," I said, my voice shaking. "Are you out of your mind?" "Sarah," Dad said, his voice taking on that stern, parental tone, "this is not up for discussion. Emma is your sister. She needs help. You have the means to help her, and you're going to do it. I'm not giving them my home," I said louder now, and more heads turned. "I worked for that penthouse. I saved for years. I'm not just handing it over because Emma can't afford her own place." "You're being selfish," Mom hissed. "This is your sister's wedding day, and you're ruining it by being greedy." "I'm greedy? I gave her money for this wedding. I've done nothing but support her." "Clearly not enough," Mom snapped. That's when Dad stood up and I could see the anger in his face. "Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell, you will give your sister that penthouse, or you are no longer part of this family." The entire table went silent. I could feel people staring at us now, the conversation around us dying as guests picked up on the tension. "Dad, I mean it," he said. "You've always been selfish. Always put yourself first. Your sister needs you, and you're refusing to help her. If you won't do this, then you're not my daughter." I stood up, my legs trembling. "Then I guess I'm not your daughter." That's when Mom stood up too. And before I could react, her hand flew across my face in a sharp, stinging slap. The entire reception gasped. I stood there, my cheek burning, my eyes filling with tears, and stared at my mother. She'd actually slapped me, in front of 200 people, at my sister's wedding. "How dare you disrespect your father?" Mom said, her voice shaking with rage. "After everything we've done for you." I looked at Dad. waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to tell Mom she'd gone too far. He said nothing. He just stood there, his jaw clenched, glaring at me like I was the villain in this story. I looked over at Emma, who was standing near the head table with Tyler, her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. She didn't move. She didn't say anything. She just stared. And that's when I realized they all thought I was in the wrong, all of them. My parents, my sister, probably half the guests. They thought I was the selfish one for refusing to give up my home. I grabbed my purse from my chair, and without another word, I walked out of that reception hall. I could hear whispers following me, could feel every eye on my back, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove back to Boston, tears streaming down my face, my cheek still throbbing where Mom had hit me. And that's when I decided, if they wanted to make me the villain, fine. I'd be the villain, but I'd be the villain on my terms. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my rooftop terrace, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sun rise over Boston Harbor, and thought about everything that had happened. My mother had slapped me. My father had disowned me. My sister had stood there and said nothing, all because I wouldn't give up my home. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't just some employee at a tech company. I was a senior engineer with stock options, connections, and leverage. And more importantly, I knew things about my family's finances that they'd forgotten I knew. You see, 3 years ago, when Dad was having trouble with his insurance business, he'd asked me to help him set up his accounting software. I'd seen everything, his income, his expenses, his debts, and I'd seen something that I'd filed away in the back of my mind, thinking I'd never need it. My parents were in debt. Serious debt. They had 2 mortgages on the house. The original one, and a second one they'd taken out to pay for some failed investment Dad had made in 2019. They had credit card debt from years of overspending, trying to keep up appearances in their upper middle-class neighborhood. They had a car loan on Mom's Mercedes that they were behind on. The only reason they could afford Emma's $50,000 wedding, they'd taken out a personal loan. And here's the kicker. I knew who their primary lender was. A small local bank in Connecticut that I happened to have connections with through my work. One of my colleagues from my startup days had become a VP there. I spent all of Sunday making phone calls. By Monday morning, I had a plan. It wasn't enough to just walk away. If I walked away, they'd keep vilifying me, keep telling everyone that I was the selfish daughter who abandoned her family. Emma would move on with her life, probably eventually get my parents to help her buy a house, and I'd be the black sheep forever. No, I needed them to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't treat people like ATMs and expect them to keep dispensing money. That favoritism and entitlement don't build a family, they destroy it. I needed them to feel what I'd felt for 28 years, powerless, overlooked, and small, and I knew exactly how to do it. The first thing I did was block all of them on my phone. Mom, Dad, Emma, even a few aunts and uncles who I knew would try to mediate. For 3 days, my phone blew up with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Finally, I changed my number entirely. I informed my HR department at work that my family was not to be given any information about me under any circumstances. Then I called my lawyer. Yes, I had a lawyer now, a sharp woman named Rebecca Chen who specialized in family law and asset protection. I'd found her through a recommendation from a coworker. I need to make sure my family has no legal claim to any of my assets, I told her in our first meeting. Rebecca nodded. Smart. Let's start with a living trust. If anything happens to you, who do you want your assets to go to? Not my family, I said firmly. Okay, charity? Friends? I thought for a moment. I have a friend from college, Marcus, who's like a brother to me. If something happens to me, I want everything to go to him. We spent 2 hours drawing up documents that would ensure my parents and Emma had zero claim to my penthouse. My savings, my 401k, my stock options, nothing. If I died tomorrow, they wouldn't see a penny. It felt good. Like I was finally taking control. But that was just the first phase. Remember how I said I had connections at my parents' lending bank? Time to use them. I called my old colleague, Derek, and asked him to coffee. We met at a Starbucks in downtown Boston, and after some catching up, I got to the point. Derek, I need information about a loan. My parents, Richard and Patricia Mitchell, they took out a personal loan for about $50,000 in early 2024. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Sarah, you know I can't just give you customer information. I know, but I'm not asking you to give me anything. I'm asking you to confirm something. Are they behind on payments? He hesitated, then nodded slightly. I can't confirm specifics, but hypothetically, if someone took out a $50,000 personal loan and then started missing payments 2 months later, the bank would be concerned. Bingo. And hypothetically, I continued, if someone were to offer to pay off that loan in full, immediately, in exchange for certain conditions, would the bank be interested? Derek raised an eyebrow. What kind of conditions? The kind where the bank agrees to send a formal letter to the borrowers, explaining that their loan has been paid off by a third party who wishes to remain anonymous, and that this third party now holds a private promissory note requiring full repayment within 12 months at a higher interest rate. Derek leaned back. That's unconventional, but legal. Legal, yes. Is this about what I think it's about? I told him everything. The wedding, the demand for my penthouse, the slap, the disowning. When I finished, Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'll talk to my manager. Give me a week. 1 week later, I wired $52,000 to the bank, the loan amount plus the late fees my parents had racked up. In exchange, the bank sent my parents a letter explaining that their loan had been paid off by an anonymous benefactor, and that they now owed that benefactor $52,000 to be repaid in monthly installments of $4,500 for 12 months, starting December 1st, 2024. The letter also explained that if they failed to make payments, the benefactor had the right to place a lien on their property. I didn't have to wait long for the fallout. It was October the 28th when my parents received the letter. I know because Emma posted about it on Facebook. Does anyone know anything about anonymous loan payoffs? My parents just got this weird letter from their bank, and we're all really confused. If anyone has experience with this, please DM me. I smiled at my computer screen. Phase 2 was in motion. According to Derek, who kept me updated as a friend, not as a bank employee, my parents had immediately called the bank, demanding to know who had paid off their loan. The bank, of course, couldn't tell them. It was a private transaction, and the anonymous benefactor had the right to remain anonymous. My parents tried everything. They threatened legal action. They demanded to speak to the bank president. They even hired a lawyer to look into it. But there was nothing illegal about what I'd done. Someone had paid off their debt and converted it into a private loan. It happened all the time. The terms were clearly stated, the interest rate was within legal limits, and they had signed documents years ago when they took out the original loan that allowed for this kind of transfer. They were stuck, and now they owed $4,500 a month to a ghost through some mutual friends who didn't know I was behind everything. I heard that my parents were panicking. Dad's insurance business was struggling. Mom had barely any income from her sporadic interior design work. They were already stretched thin from the wedding costs, and now this. Emma, meanwhile, was living with them in their house, along with Tyler. Apparently, Tyler's gym plans had hit a snag. Translation, he had no business plan and no investors, and they were still jobless and broke. The house was getting crowded. Tensions were high, and every day, that $52,000 debt loomed over them like a sword. I waited until November 15th to make my next move. I created a fake email address, anonymous.benefactor2024@gmail.com, and I sent my parents an email. Dear Richard and Patricia Mitchell, I'm the individual who paid off your $50,000 personal loan. I am reaching out because I believe in giving people second chances, something you failed to give your daughter, Sarah. I know what happened at Emma's wedding. I know you demanded Sarah give up her home, and when she refused, you assaulted her and disowned her in front of 200 guests. I am giving you a choice. Option 1. You can continue making your monthly payments of $4,500 as stipulated in our agreement. However, I will be monitoring your financial situation closely. If you miss even one payment, I will place a lien on your home and begin foreclosure proceedings. Option 2. You can reach out to Sarah, apologize sincerely for your behavior, acknowledge the years of favoritism and neglect, and ask for her forgiveness. If she chooses to forgive you, I will forgive your debt in its entirety. The choice is yours. But know this, Sarah owes you nothing. She has built a life for herself despite you, not because of you. If you choose to continue treating her as a bank rather than a daughter, you will face the consequences. You have until December 1st to make your decision. Sincerely, a concerned party. I hit send and waited. According to my sources, I had a few friends still in Connecticut who kept me updated. The email sent my parents into a tailspin. They immediately knew it had something to do with me, but they couldn't figure out how I'd paid off their loan. I wasn't rich enough for that, they thought. I was just a tech worker with a big mortgage, right? What they didn't know, I'd received a $100,000 bonus in September for my work on a major project. I'd also cashed out some stock options for another $75,000. I had the liquidity to pay off their loan and still maintain my lifestyle. But they didn't know that. All they knew was that somehow their estranged daughter was connected to this anonymous benefactor who now controlled their financial future. Mom called Emma in hysterics. "It has to be Sarah! Who else would know about the wedding?" Emma, from what I heard, was conflicted. On one hand, she was upset that her parents were in this position. On the other hand, she was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, they'd gone too far at her wedding. Tyler, of course, was useless. He apparently kept suggesting they call a lawyer or go to the police, not understanding that what I'd done was completely legal. Dad, meanwhile, was furious. He ranted about how I was destroying the family and how I was evil for manipulating them like this. But here's the thing. I wasn't manipulating them. I was giving them a choice. They could apologize and have their debt forgiven, or they could stay stubborn and prideful and go broke. The ball was in their court. November 20th came and went. No apology. November 25th, still nothing. November 30th, the day before their first payment was due, I got a call from an unknown number. "Against my better judgment?" I answered. "Sarah." It was Mom's voice, tight and cold. "How did you get this number?" I asked. "It doesn't matter. We need to talk." "I have nothing to say to you. Sarah, please." Her voice cracked, and for a moment she sounded almost human. "We're sorry, okay? We're sorry for what happened at the wedding. Just tell this person to leave us alone. We'll find a way to pay you back for whatever you've done, but we can't afford these payments." "You're not apologizing to me," I said calmly. "You're apologizing because you're scared." "There's a difference. What do you want from us?" she cried. "You want us to grovel? You want us to beg?" "I want you to mean it," I said. "I want you to actually acknowledge what you've done to me my entire life. The favoritism, the neglect, the fact that you've treated Emma like a princess and me like an obligation. I want you to see me as a person, not as an ATM." There was a long silence. Then Mom said, in a voice dripping with venom, "You've always been jealous of your sister. This is just you being spiteful." I hung up. They made the December 1st payment. Barely. December was brutal for my parents. I knew this because Emma started posting increasingly desperate messages on Facebook. "Does anyone know of any jobs hiring? My husband and I are looking for work ASAP, willing to consider anything. If anyone needs interior design work done, my mom is offering a huge discount for the holidays. Please share." Asking for prayers for my family during this difficult time. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered my mother's hand across my face. I remembered my father's words. "You're not my daughter." I remembered standing in that reception hall, humiliated in front of 200 people, and I felt nothing but resolve. On December 15th, I sent another email. "Dear Richard, Patricia, and Emma, it has come to my attention that you made your first payment. Congratulations. Only 11 more to go. However, I feel compelled to point out that your apology, or rather, Patricia's attempt at an apology, was not sincere. It was motivated by fear and financial desperation, not genuine remorse. Allow me to clarify the situation. I am not just a concerned party. I am Sarah. I paid off your loan. I now hold your debt, and I will continue to hold it until you truly understand what you've done. Emma, I'm including you in this email because you need to understand something. You stood by and said nothing while our parents demanded I give up my home. You said nothing when Mom slapped me. You have benefited your entire life from their favoritism, and you've never once acknowledged it. This is your reckoning. All three of you, you have until January 1st, 2025, to reach out to me with a genuine, heartfelt apology. If you do, and if I believe you mean it, I will forgive the debt. If you don't, I will own your house by this time next year. The choice remains yours. Sarah Mitchell. I hit send and then blocked the email address. I didn't want to see their replies. Not yet. Christmas 2024 was the first Christmas I'd ever spent alone. No family dinners, no forced smiles. No watching Emma open expensive gifts while I got a $20 candle. Instead, I invited Marcus and his wife Jennifer to my penthouse. We cooked dinner together, drank wine, watched movies, and exchanged gifts. It was the best Christmas I'd ever had. Marcus, who knew everything, raised his glass in a toast. To Sarah, the most badass woman I know. May your enemies tremble and your bank account flourish. We laughed, and I felt lighter than I had in years. On December 28th, I unblocked the anonymous email account to check if they'd replied. They had. 3 emails, in fact. The first was from Dad. Sarah, this has gone on long enough. We're family. Family doesn't treat each other this way. I'm asking you, as your father, to end this. We'll figure out a way to pay you back, but these terms are impossible. Please. For the sake of our family. Still no real apology. Still no acknowledgement. Just guilt tripping. The second email was from Emma. Sarah, I'm so sorry for what happened at my wedding. I should have said something. I should have stood up for you. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I realized that Mom and Dad have always treated you differently. I don't know why. Maybe because I was the baby. Maybe because I needed more help. But it wasn't fair to you. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. I'm sorry I didn't defend you. Please, can we talk better? But still not enough. It felt like she was sorry she got caught, not sorry for the years of behavior. The third email was from Mom. And this one was different. Sarah, I don't know how to start this. I've written and deleted this email a dozen times. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to even read this. But I need to say it. I slapped you at your sister's wedding in front of everyone. I hit my own daughter because she wouldn't give up her home. There is no excuse for that. None. I don't care how angry I was. I don't care what I thought you owed us. I had no right to put my hands on you, and the worst part? That wasn't the first time I hurt you. I've hurt you your entire life. Not physically, but in ways that are just as bad. Maybe worse. I've made excuses for 28 years. Emma needed more attention because she was younger. Emma needed more help because she struggled in school. Emma needed more support because she was sensitive. But the truth is, I failed you because it was easier to invest in Emma than to see you for who you really are. You never needed me the way Emma did. You were always so independent, so smart, so capable, and instead of celebrating that, I resented it. I resented that you didn't need me. I resented that you succeeded without my help. And so I gave all my attention to Emma because she made me feel needed. That's not your fault. That's mine. I was a terrible mother to you, Sarah. I favored one daughter over the other. And I can't take that back. I can't give you back your childhood. I can't undo the years of making you feel invisible. Your father and I demanded your penthouse because we thought you owed us. We thought that because we raised you, you were obligated to sacrifice for your sister. We were wrong. You don't owe us anything. You never did. I am so sorry. For the slap. For the favoritism. For making you feel like you were less than Emma. For every birthday I forgot. Every accomplishment I minimized, every time I chose her over you, you deserved better. You deserved a mother who saw you. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to ever speak to me again. But I needed you to know that I know what I did. And I'm sorry, Mom. I read the email 3 times. Then I put my phone down and cried, not because I was happy, not because I was ready to forgive her, but because after 28 years, my mother finally saw me. I spent New Year's Eve alone on my rooftop terrace, wrapped in a blanket, watching fireworks explode over Boston Harbor. 2025 stretched ahead of me, full of possibility. I thought about my options. I could forgive the debt and move on with my life. Take the high road, let them off the hook. Or I could follow through with my plan. Let them struggle with the payments. Maybe take their house if they couldn't pay. The old Sarah, the people pleaser, the doormat, the forgotten daughter, would have forgiven them immediately. Would have been grateful for the scraps of acknowledgement Mom had thrown her way. But I wasn't that Sarah anymore. Here's what I realized. Forgiveness and consequences are not mutually exclusive. I could acknowledge that my mother's apology was genuine and still hold her accountable for 28 years of damage. On January 2nd, 2025, I sent one final email. Dear Mom, Dad, and Emma, I received your emails. Mom, your apology was the first real one I've heard from you in my entire life. I believe you meant it, and for what it's worth, I appreciate you finally seeing what you've done. But appreciation is not the same as forgiveness. Not yet. Here are my terms. Dad, you will write me a letter, handwritten, not typed, acknowledging every instance you can remember where you prioritized Emma over me, every missed recital, every dismissive comment, every time you made me feel invisible. I want you to see the pattern. I want you to understand what you did. Emma, you will attend family therapy with me. Just the two of us. We will work through our relationship with a professional. I'm not interested in cutting you out of my life forever, but we need to rebuild from the ground up. And you need to understand your role in this dynamic. Mom, you will volunteer at a women's shelter for 6 months. You will spend time with women who have been hurt by their families, and you will think about the ways you hurt me. You will learn what it means to truly support someone, not just when it's convenient. If all 3 of you complete these terms by June 1st, 2025, I will forgive your entire debt. The $52,000 will be wiped clean. You will owe nothing. If any of you refuse, or if any of you half-ass this, I will proceed with collections. And I promise you, I will take your house. These are not negotiations. These are requirements. You have until January 15th to agree or decline. Sarah, on January 10th, I received 3 separate emails. Dad's was short. I agree to your terms. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'll start writing the letter tonight. Emma's was longer. I agree. I'll find a therapist. I want to fix this, Sarah. I want to have a real relationship with you. I love you, and I'm sorry I didn't show it. Mom's made me cry again. I agree. Thank you for giving me a chance to make this right. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful. I love you, Sarah. I always have, even if I didn't show it properly. I sat at my kitchen counter, staring at my laptop screen, and felt something shift in my chest. This wasn't about revenge anymore. Maybe it never really was. It was about being seen, being valued, being treated like I mattered, and finally, after 28 years, I was. It's now April 2025, and I want to tell you where everyone is. Dad sent me his letter in February. It was 47 pages long, handwritten in his careful print. He documented every instance he could remember. And there were hundreds. Piano lessons canceled for Emma's dance. My college graduation overlooked for Emma's high school ceremony. The time I won a coding competition and he forgot to come. The time Emma failed a class and he took her to Disney World to cheer her up. Reading it was excruciating. But at the end, he wrote, I see it now, Sarah. I see what I did. I robbed you of a father because I was too busy being Emma's hero. I don't know if I can ever make it up to you, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. Emma and I started therapy in January. We go every other Thursday. It's been hard. There have been sessions where we've both cried, sessions where we've yelled, sessions where we've sat in silence because we didn't know what to say. But slowly, we're building something real. She's gotten a job as a marketing coordinator. Tyler, surprisingly, has actually opened a small gym with financing from his own parents, not mine. They've moved into a small apartment, and Emma has started standing up to our parents when they slip into old patterns. Last month, Mom suggested that Emma ask me for money to buy new furniture, and Emma shut it down immediately. Sarah is my sister, not a bank. We'll figure it out ourselves. I almost cried. Mom has been volunteering at Harbor House, a women's shelter in Hartford. She sends me updates every week. She told me about a woman named Maria who reminded her of me. Independent, strong, but carrying deep wounds from her family. Mom said, I understand now what I did to you. I made you feel like you had to be perfect because being yourself wasn't enough. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Last week she asked if she could come visit me in Boston. Just her, not Dad, not Emma, just us. I said yes. Mom arrived on April 12th. I picked her up from South Station, and when I saw her, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked older, more tired, but also softer. Like something hard inside her had finally cracked open. We drove to my penthouse in silence. When we got there, she stood in the living room, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the harbor view, the life I'd built for myself. It's beautiful, she said quietly. You did this all on your own. I did, I replied. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. I'm so proud of you, Sarah. I should have said that years ago. I should have said it every day, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of you. We spent the weekend together. We talked about everything. My childhood, her relationship with her own mother, which, it turned out, was complicated and painful in ways I'd never known. We talked about Emma, about Dad, about the wedding. On Sunday morning, as we had coffee on my rooftop terrace, she said, I know you said forgiveness and consequences aren't the same thing, but I need to know. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? Really forgive me? I thought about it. I don't know, Mom, maybe, but it's going to take time. More time than 6 months. Maybe years, she nodded. I understand. I just want you to know that I'm going to keep trying. Whether you forgive me or not, I'm going to keep trying to be the mother you deserved all along. That's all I ask, I said. When I drove her back to the station, she hugged me tight and whispered, I love you, Sarah. I love you so much. I love you too, Mom, I said, and I meant it. June 1st, 2025. The debt forgiven. Today is June 1st, 2025. All 3 of them completed their terms. Dad's letter sits in a drawer in my bedroom. I read it sometimes when I need to remember that people can change. Emma and I have plans to go to Martha's Vineyard together in July. Just the 2 of us. No parents, no Tyler, no pressure. Just 2 sisters trying to figure out how to be sisters. Mom finished her 6 months at Harbor House. The director sent me a letter saying she was one of the most dedicated volunteers they'd ever had. She's planning to continue volunteering once a week. This morning, I sent an email to my parents' bank, instructing them to mark the debt as paid in full. My parents will receive a letter this week informing them that they owe nothing. I didn't do it because I had to. I did it because I wanted to. They met my terms. They put in the work. They showed me that they were willing to change, and that's all I ever wanted. The real revenge people have asked me if I regret what I did. If I think I went too far, honestly, no. Here's the thing about revenge. It's not about making people suffer. It's about making people understand. My parents didn't understand what they'd done to me until they faced real consequences. They didn't understand the weight of their favoritism until it threatened to take away everything they had. The slap at the wedding? That was just the catalyst. The real damage was 28 years of being invisible, but I didn't destroy my family. I gave them a chance to save it, and they took it. Would they have changed if I just walked away? Maybe. Probably not. Would they have apologized if I just asked them to? Definitely not. Sometimes people need to lose something to realize what they had. And sometimes the people we write off as irredeemable surprise us. My parents surprised me. Emma surprised me. Hell, I surprised myself. I thought I wanted revenge. What I really wanted was to be seen, to be valued, to matter, and now I do. Epilogue, October 5th, 2025. 1 year later. It's been exactly 1 year since the wedding. Emma called me this morning to acknowledge it. I was thinking about last year, she said. How awful it was. How we almost lost you. Almost, I said. I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad you fought back. I'm glad you didn't just let us treat you that way. Me too, I said. Tyler and I are doing well, by the way. We're talking about maybe buying a house in a few years. With our own money, she added quickly. I laughed. Good. I'm happy for you, Em. I love you, Sarah. I love you too. After we hung up, I stood on my rooftop terrace and looked out at the harbor. The leaves were turning again, gold and crimson, just like last year. But this year, I wasn't alone. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was Sarah Mitchell. Software engineer, homeowner, sister, daughter, I was seen. I was valued. I mattered. And that, more than any revenge, was the sweetest victory of all. Final thoughts. There's one thing I want you to take away from my story. It's this. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not your parents, not your siblings, not anyone. Family is important, yes. But family doesn't give people the right to treat you like you don't matter. Set boundaries. Stand up for yourself. And if people can't respect that, then let them face the consequences. I'm not saying you should do what I did. I'm not saying revenge is always the answer, but I am saying this. Don't be a doormat. Don't let people take advantage of your kindness. Don't let years of hurt pile up until you break. Speak up. Demand better. And if they won't give it to you, walk away with your head held high. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to matter. And if your family can't see that, that's their loss, not yours. My name is Sarah Mitchell. This is my story, and I wouldn't change a single thing.